hope you're having a great day, and thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are Team Beaver reporting from Happy Valley State College, PA. Our podcast is split into 3 sections that allow our listeners to gain new knowledge of the world of human resource management. We as professionals need to know how to manage people in an industry of serving people. Making sure your staff and coworkers are in similar wavelengths will help build up a strong work environment.
I'm Muyun. Starting off the podcast, we will be discussing some of the latest and hottest news in the world of human resources management.
I'm Anthony, and our second topic of our podcast is our Hot Topic section. Here, we will debate a pressing topic that is prevalent in the human resource world.
This is Chen. The last section of our podcast consists of an interview with an industry professional to give us better insight of today's human resource environment. Now, without further ado, let us jump right into the Here's the News.
Published by Nation's Restaurant News on November 9, 2020 by Nancy Luna, is titled, Taco Bell to Throw 400 Socially Distanced Hiring Parties. Hosting events for employees is the best way to raise morale and shorten job turnover. I believe in these times, many businesses are feeling the effects of the pandemic. People want to feel happy again, and especially at work. Hosting these events is not only bringing in more people, but also reinventing how we see the interviews in the future. This program has been running for 3 years now and has shown great interest. The events were held with COVID protocols in mind, like social distancing, mandating the use of masks, and even drive-through interviews. In my opinion, the traditional interview process can be slow and tedious, in which many potential candidates may be scared away. These parties were a great idea in hoping to boost the employee mindset.
Do you think these kind of interviews are better on larger or smaller companies?
If I was to think about if larger companies or smaller companies would use these, I honestly think that both companies can actually use these in a beneficial way. People like to have parties and people like to have enjoyment when they actually go into work. I think that if they instill them right and actually can incorporate the employees in the best way, both of the ideas of the larger or smaller companies will be able to implement it perfectly. Thank you for your time, and here's Sam Chen with his news desk.
In this pandemic era, more and more people are using video meetings to work and connect to friends and families. While many people found it to be hyperproductive, some people think this method of work and life doesn't really suit them, and what they love to use is phone calls. This article was published by Kritika Varagar on November 2020 on the Wall Street Journal, and the title is The Resurrection of the Office Phone Call. It talks about how people like phone calls versus video meetings like Zoom as a medium for communication. This article is like a discussion board, providing testimonies from people with different jobs and using these mediums under different circumstances.
Hey Jen, can you give some examples from the article?
There are actually quite a few examples from the article. Marissa Shuffler is an associate professor at organizational psychology at Clemson University. She says that, quote, a phone call is in many ways the happy medium. It's perfect for one-on-one discussions and has just as much richness as a video call and without overwhelming you with visual information. But apparently, not everybody loves phone calls. According to the article, as smartphones have become ubiquitous, actual phone calls have declined in volume, even in businesses that have used to live and die by them. A 2018 study by sales training company Value Selling Associates found that 48% of sales professionals were scared to make cold calls. And for these people, phone calls have been quickly displaced by video meetings. Liz is a head of a small firm. She says that she prefers video meetings because she thinks it's always better to have your camera on, especially for difficult conversations and demanding tasks. Now, reflecting upon myself as a student, video meeting is not my preferred way of communication, even though now a lot of people are adapted to it. Having to stare into the screen while meeting, well, especially for a long period of time, makes my posture extremely uncomfortable and it also hurts my neck. I would much rather take a phone call while lying on sofa beds. What do you think? Do you agree with Marissa using phone calls? Or do you agree with Liz that video meetings can promote efficiency? On to the next article. The title of this one is called Surge in Physical Threats During Pandemic Complicates Employees' Security Efforts. It is written by Jack Hagel, and it is published on the Wall Street Journal on December 2020. The second article shares insights into the domain of employee security efforts. The author argues that there are two factors mainly contributing to the complication of employee security. First of all, because there have been some big employee layoffs, and that corporations are taking stances on nowadays viral social issues, the number of threats that employers have received have surged, which leads to employee security concerns. And second of all, as the pandemic begins, a vast majority of employees are working from home rather than from office, which makes it difficult for security companies to come up with plans to protect everybody. Due to these stresses, security companies are now, quote, revising emergency action plans, updating location data on staff, and beefing up physical security as well as efforts to monitor and access threats from open sources, such as those found on the internet, end quote end, according to Mr. Borton, the executive director of the ONTIC Center for Protective Intelligence. What would you do if you happen to be in charge of employee security office? Just coming to thinking about it, this can be such a challenge, using limited resources to still protect employees that are now in all different places.
The article in question, Why the Office Isn't Going Away by Peter Capoli, attempts to in one way or the other addresses some of the most outstanding reasons why, despite of the home-based working setting whereby work is taken from offices to homes due to the COVID-19, will not replace offices. Peter argues in the article that offices have been very key for most organizations, and they can never be replaced even by the home-based working that seems to be on the rise. What might become of the office-based working for in the adopted working from homes experiment that most companies have found to be very effective during the current times under the current conditions. The article compares working from home and office-based working, the effectivity of either of the two, and then the author as well in the article in question is generally to find out whether the home-based working may forever replace the office-based working. According to history, there was once a similar situation as one day. There were early days of Industrial Revolution where most organizations' employees worked from home. This, however, did not redden offices unless despite the longer that it lasted. This is an evidence that offices are very essential, will always be necessary. Thus, the reason Peter poses in the article in question that office isn't going away.
So, Muyun, what's your opinion on offices versus virtual meetings?
Overall, I think that offices are the significant component for an organization to be successful. Virtual technology can never replace face-to-face interaction and communication.
A lot of great articles today.
Hey Anthony, I heard you are interested about Muyun's article. Do you want to share something about it?
My viewpoint on Muyun's article was that many places are struggling to figure if online or in-person workplaces are better. If it were up to me, I would choose in-person because face-to-face interactions are the most important in our industry.
As I approach my article about phone call versus video meetings, I think a good question to ask yourself is how each of the medium can benefit you, as well as the person that you are going to talk to. From an HR perspective, people oftentimes don't notice that they have some unconscious preferences, and it can be easy for us to forget that depending on the situation, the person we wish to speak to might have some preferences as well, and making sure that employees are comfortable with each of the meeting medium, or phone calls or Zoom, can largely promote work efficiency.
I have many thoughts on Anthony's article. I like the concept of companies sharing their spaces to bring workers in. This way of recruiting can go a long way and provide to build better working environments. I believe that if I was in this kind of recruiting space, I would enjoy the process of being hired and looking forward to go to work.
So that concludes our news report section. In this section, we've talked about many recent articles. Some are funny, some are unexpected, and some are worth giving a thought. We shared some of our opinions after reading these articles ourselves, and we hope that you can learn something from it too. Coming up is an exciting debate section on the topic of virtual professionalism. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with you after a short break. Hello everyone, I'm Chen, and welcome back to the next section of our podcast, which is a debate on the topic about virtual professionalism. Before the COVID-19 hits, most people are adapted to working face-to-face with people in offices. Like, we dress up in uniforms and suit and ties, and we adhere to a set of business etiquettes to maintain professionalism. But nowadays, people are relying more on working remotely from home. And with all the meetings and work being conducted virtually, the situation is kind of challenging us to think that whether maintaining professionalism is still necessary. One side of the argument suggested that professionalism still matters in a virtual environment, and the best organizations and the best employees should still adhere to proper business etiquette. But on the other side of the argument, it's suggested that the virtual professionalism is no longer matters. The more casual we can be in the virtual environment, the better. So, should the code of professionalism be supported when we are now working from home through a camera? I'm sure you already had some thoughts on this issue, and we do as well, after having met with these issues as students ourselves, and after extensive researches from news articles, journals, and scholarly websites.
I hope by the end of the debate, we can gain better understanding of what's the implication of maintaining professionalism and to develop our own opinion of this contemporary issue. Now, let's welcome Anthony and Jian to share their take on the topic.
In our debate, I will be on the side of going against virtual professionalism. Our topic has been more relevant than ever with online interviews, pitch meetings, and company calls with executives. The definition of professionalism is a conduct, aims, or qualities that characterize or mark a profession or a professional person. Today, I will be discussing why virtual professionalism should be taken less seriously and why it can actually hinder employee morale and performance. To start our dialogue, I will discuss two topics that will help my case on why the presence of virtual professionalism is hindering the worker atmosphere. First, we have why virtual professionalism standards of professionalism dress and attire are not necessary for employees working from home. And second, how virtual professionalism and reaching the standards can cause unneeded stress in these already stressful times. Starting with our first argument of the standards, I believe that my father works for PepsiCo, where he would speak to executives around the country while working remotely. You would expect a company with that size to have their employees to have professional backgrounds and be appropriately dressed. On the contrary, I never saw him in a suit or even on some instances, not even have his camera on. I asked him what he thought of the topic, and he believes that the pressure of needing to put on a professional wear does not dictate the output of your work. An article published by Sharm.org by Dana Wilk on May 7, 2019, gave me resounding evidence. In her article, she states that employers saw a 20 to 25% increase of worker productivity while not having cameras on.
This evidence clears and show the need of always being dressed and cameras on does not correlate to a better state of mind and worker output. Finally, an article published by GoToMeeting.com of virtual professionalism tips. In this article, it describes why being dressed in a professional manner will help your mindset. Stated in my last point, this is false. I disagree with this comment completely. I work online. With school and certain classes, I do not have to be in frame, talk, or even show my face. Does this mean I'm a bad student and lazy? Of course not. The concept of finding professional wear can be tedious and annoying for some people. This can translate into virtual professionalism because it is a baseline of superficial worries. Does my suit look nice? Is my makeup done? Or is my background nice? There should be no worry of how we feel about our appearance rather than our work productivity and the morale of the staff. Moving on to my next point of why virtual professionalism can cause distress and how it hinders employee morale and outputs. The idea of needing to have a nice pressed suit and clean background is very surface level to me. It can cause unneeded stress in the sense of not doing enough in employees. To start off, I have an article published by Stanford News on why Zoom calls cause stress and fatigue. In the piece, two important listings are brought up stating how excessive amounts of close-up eye contact is highly intense, and the other being seeing yourself during video chats constantly in real time is fatiguing. Both points are tied to virtual professionalism, how it is harming employees. To start, they are both implying having your video cameras on while being in frame of the call. If employers wanted to help their workers out, the idea of needing your camera on would see definitely a decrease in the workers. Turning it off can also see an increase for the workers' morale and also mindset. There's also another study brought up by this as saying that having your cameras on and focusing is also way too much for an employee to handle at one time. I believe this is one of the strongest arguments against the topic because it shows that it is being researched and directly impacting workers' mindset and productivity. Third point of background information was article published by Inc.com. Is professional dress hinders employee expression and can cause boredom and depression. In the article, it states that company vertical response encourages their employees to wear what makes them feel comfortable. Talented people are as diverse as the clothes that they wear. For virtual professionalism, we should wear what makes us workers feel as comfortable while getting work done. If I believe I get my best work done while in sweatpants and a hoodie, then why should I feel the need to be uncomfortable in a suit and tie for a video call where no one can even see the lower half of my torso? Canceling the idea of virtual professionalism can save employees from feeling anxious or worried that they are coming across as non-professional. I believe that my topic has very compelling arguments against it of the idea of virtual professionalism is unneeded in today's workplace, and employers should ask less of workers operating out of their bedrooms.
I heard you brought up some good points, Anthony, but from my point of view, I think virtual professionalism should be strictly followed, regardless if it's in person or online. Professionalism is nothing new, right? It's something that's been around for thousands of years. Our culture has long adapted to conducting business professionally, to be on time, to be polite to each other, to show dedication of work, and show authenticity when making promises. Because of this pandemic now, more and more people are starting to meet and work through video or audio meetings. But just because we switched to a different format and now all of a sudden, the rule of professionalism becomes completely disposable. The rule of professionalism were created to promote efficiency and to enhance communication, and I believe that it should serve the same purpose when we switch to online formats. And that's why I think business etiquette should be strictly followed. According to an article published by Kate Morgan on the website The Life Project, she said that, quote, workplace harmony, culture, and productivity all depend on successful communication. And while language gaps between senior leaderships and newer hires are unusual, they are usually bridged by a shared lexicon of business speak, and quote end. People have different hobbies, People have different personalities, they have different biases, and people value things differently. If we don't strive for a standard code of professionalism at work and just bring everything onto the table, business would be a chaos. Professionalism acts like a bridge, as Kate described, to connect us together so we can all work on the same thing, healthily and efficiently. Why virtual professionalism should be maintained? Well, let's look at why virtual professionalism should not be maintained. According to an article published by Kathy Simpson on a website called Small Bits Ahead, 55% of people were distracted when they have their cell phone lying around. When employees don't follow proper etiquettes and take phone calls during their work, their mistakes were increased by 28% after they come back from the call. There are things we can't measure as well. When people dress up in shirts with different logos and slogans, when people stop smiling to their team members, when a consultant eats a burger while video meeting with his clients, and when your boss appears just out of shower room for a presentation, how can one expect to have any positive emotions and group synergies left, while after all these circumstances showed up?
Anthony, do you believe that having a more casual setting in workplaces creates stronger environments?
I believe that having a more casual workplace can create stronger environments not only for employers but also for employees. And if you have a more casual workplace, you can also have more fun, more diverse, and more entertaining space in which employees can come to work and also feel better. When talking about virtual professionalism, we're also going through stressful times. So making work-life experiences as easy as possible will definitely take away some stress that the employees have right now, and that which they can translate into their work and great products and also a great environment within the company.
Jian, do you agree with Anthony that casual setting in workplaces can help employees' productivity?
I do agree with Anthony that in COVID times that things are stressful. On the one hand, we're trying to adapt to this virtual working environment, and on the other hand, we have this imminent issue of business transformation that's putting a lot of workload on employees. But does that mean that making things casual, making them more fun and diverse would increase productivity? I don't buy that, okay? I think work is work, and we all need some personal time to have fun and relax to mitigate some of the stress. Well, I get that, but mixing it with work would make it both worse, and having fun while working would most definitely dissipate group synergy, which would lead to less productivity. And when you can't get the job done on time, you won't feel like it's fun at all. There are many ways to help employees relax. Arranging more time off, extend lunch period, or even offering extra pays and vacations. Instead of letting employees work casually, these are much more effective ways to boost productivity.
With times changing, do you think it's smart for employers to shift older practices?
Bringing back the old face-to-face practices and try fitting them in nowadays virtual environment is something that we should strive for. I do understand that a lot of people feel working from home has a different vibe and environment than working in offices, right? Typing essays on computers that you would normally use to watch movies and editing reports on the sofa bed, it is difficult. It is difficult to concentrate on tasks when you are in your loving home. But quitting professionalism and old offices practices can make everything worse because, after all, your primary task on your job is your work. And even though that nowadays working environment is making it very challenging, we should do everything we can to fight with it.
I think it would be smart for any company to shift from old practices that have been in use for hundreds of years. Times are changing, people are changing, and that means the way that we think is also changing along with us. Moving away from uptight and having to be professionally dressed every single day, every single minute that you're inside working, or even if it's through a Zoom call, it can create almost kind of a dynamic, a power dynamic of those who may not be able to either afford the nicest of clothes or might not have the best background that they might be able to display. I think it's actually smarter for employers to tone down the level of professionalism in general in all workplaces, and especially through virtual calls as well.
Thank you, Anthony. That was some great points you just mentioned. And to everyone listening to our podcast, I hope you have a great time listening to our debate. We've looked at the idea of virtual professionalism. We hope you have learned something and can feel more comfortable talking about this topic. Coming up is the last section of this podcast, an interview with a hospitality industry professional on some of the contemporary issues, especially surrounding the COVID-19 and virtual working environment. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with you after a short break. Hello everyone, this is Jian, and welcome back to the last section of our podcast, The Real World Perspective. We're very excited to invite our Real World Perspective guest today, Ms. Olivia Kavanaugh. Ms. Olivia Kavanaugh graduated from Penn State University with a bachelor's degree in hospitality management. Her first job is a food and beverage intern, which is in St. Regis, New York, as an internship. And there, she was responsible for managing private dining operations, supervising 10-member staff in a historical Forbes 5-star, AAA 5-diamond, 270-room hotel. After working 3 months as an intern, she moved up to the food and beverage manager at the St. Regis, New York. She was responsible for managing 3 food and beverage outlets, 70-plus union associates, and ensuring all brand standards were being met at a Forbes 5-star and AAA 5-diamond rating. After working for a full year, she went to Sweetgreen as an assistant coach. Ms. Kavanaugh works full-time at Sweetgreen, a restaurant chain founded in 2007 in Washington, D.C. The company aims to provide simple, seasonal, and healthy food by building a transparent supply network and cook from scratch. The mission of Sweetgreen is to inspire healthier communities by connecting people to real food. They achieve that by supporting small and mid-sized growers who are farming sustainably. So without further ado, let's jump into the questions. Ms. Kavanaugh, selecting the right employees is a fundamental first step to creating a great workplace. What are the biggest hiring mistakes that you have seen? And how would you think that companies can do a better job of hiring employees who fit?
That is a good question. So that happens all the time. And then your retention doesn't stay, your team members don't stay and your retention just keeps going and going. So one of the biggest mistakes that people do is they hire out of desperation. So all of a sudden you have team members who are leaving and you don't kind of see that happening. And then all of a sudden you're in this struggle where you don't have enough team members, you don't have enough staff. So you're just rushing to get bodies in the building, really. And then that causes poor training because you're just throwing them in the deep end, trying to have them swim on their own and figure it all out on their own because you're so busy. And so it just creates a spiral effect because then they quit because they're unhappy because they didn't get the proper training, or they just didn't fit in with the company's goals and values. And so one way to kind of avoid all of that is to have a good understanding of your team, understanding who are your key players, who's your A team, who's your B team, and who's your C team. Your B team and C team, you always want to work on developing them as much as you can. And if you think you're going to part ways sometime soon, like you want to stay ahead of that, that way you already have someone hired and trained when that moment does come.
For the companies that have a great work environment, Do you think hiring employees based on company fit is more or less important than task fit?
I think the culture is more important. You can always teach someone the task. You can always train them how to use an equipment, how to follow an SOP and a procedure, but you can't teach someone to be passionate for what they like to do. You can't teach someone to value the companies. So it's important to hire someone who has the same ideas as the company and who's passionate about the work that they do. Everything else you can teach. You can't teach passion. So it's important to hire someone based on their personality and based on their passion.
So typically in a workplace, employers would select to use monetary compensation to incentivize employees to work harder. But beyond monetary compensation, what do you think that really motivates employees to perform and stay?
You need to constantly be challenging your employees. People love money, right? Like everyone's going to take a bigger paycheck no matter what you say. But I think at the end of the day, people do like to learn. They do like to feel proud of the work that they do, and they want to be interested in it. So it's important to highlight what their passion is and understand what their strengths and weaknesses are and kind of push them in a direction where they're coming in not just to collect a paycheck, but they're coming in to make a difference. They're coming in and wanting to work and leaving work feeling proud of the work that they do.
Besides money, most people do have greater purposes in the work environment. But imagine a scenario where a company is offering a very high monetary compensation to motivate employees and to try to reduce turnovers. Do you think the high monetary compensation alone would be enough for companies to achieve that goal?
That's a tough one. I think it depends. Some people, yes, but some people, no. It really depends on their personality. Personally, for me, I like to be challenged, and I like to wake up knowing that I'm making a difference in my job and that the work that I'm doing is meaningful to the company and to myself and my personal growth. But there's some people who, they just come in for a paycheck. But to really understand that, you need to make sure you're hiring the right person that fits with the company's needs, right? If you're a company that wants to grow and develop people, then you should be focusing on hiring those people who want to constantly feel challenged and constantly want to grow with you in the company.
Women in today's workplace in general still make less than men working in the same jobs, and women is still a minority in upper management positions. What do you think that is necessary to further break this glass ceiling?
Listen, being a woman myself in the industry, I think the most important thing is to know your worth and your value and not be afraid to run the race, right? Start the race where everyone else is starting and run just as hard and just as fast to prove yourself. Your work and your passion in itself will speak volume, right? So I think as long as you're willing to roll up your sleeves and work hard and, do whatever you can to get to the role that you want to be and be curious and continue to learn, you'll get just as far as anyone else or even further.
One last question for you, Ms. Kavanagh. Do you think that having more women in leadership positions is a great way to influence other women in lower positions?
It's great to have a role model and someone that you look up to, especially if it's a woman that you admire. But I think anyone can be that role model for you. As long as, we work together and we respect each other, it doesn't necessarily have to be a lady or a man, right? As long as there's mutual respect and you both want to grow together and you see a bigger purpose, I don't think it really matters who it is.
Great. Ms. Kavanagh, I have one bonus question for you. What is your favorite Penn State memory?
Oh my goodness. The football games. You can't go wrong. The whiteout games are the best. Being there with all your friends and watching the game is probably the best memory I've ever had.
Thank you, Ms. Olivia Kavanagh, for stopping in with us and helping us learn a little more of what's going on inside our industry. So this concludes our podcast for this episode. We hope you gained some insights from our news, hot topics, and interview from a hospitality professional, and we hope you enjoy the content as much as we enjoyed making them. We look forward to seeing you in the future episodes. This is Team Beaver signing off.